Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to have you here, Jess, for a chat. Welcome to the Wellness Crew podcast show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm so excited because this is such a big topic that we're going to delve into today. And I can't wait to get stuck into it. I love everything mindset and well being, obviously, going through my own journey as well. So, I was wondering if we could start the show off by talking a little bit about your story and what got you working in the mindset space.
Yes, I'd love to. So what got me started in working in this area is my own journey, obviously. Um, so long story short, I didn't grow up with my mom, I grew up with stepmom, um, you know, with so much, I'll say conditioning, but so much external factors so involved that growing up was different. Like I actually made the decision from a young age to stop seeing my mum. So that was huge. And it was like a really confronting experience, but it stayed with me, forever. And so growing up as this young girl, not feeling confident or comfortable enough to go to, say, family members to have a conversation with, or not really having the opportunity or feeling like I had the opportunity to really know myself. It was like I just followed everybody else's
Mm.
expectations, or like just molded into this person of who I was supposed to be, that maybe I might be liked, or whatever. And so once I hit like teenage years and hit that really rebellious stage and left home at 14 and ran off and tried to do this experience life on my own and figure it out all by myself, was hard. And it was such like a mindset, like it was mentally draining. I can't say, I was going to say it was a mindset shift, but it wasn't. It was so mentally draining, like, who am I? What do I even want? Like, what am I doing? But not feeling like I could go to somebody, not even my own family. I felt like I couldn't even go to my family and be like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And, I fell pregnant at 17. So, 17-year-old, still so young, pregnant, about to bring a baby into the world, and still not knowing who I was, just took me on this whole spiral of learning who I was and getting to know myself as a person. And so when it comes to me putting that into my own business, it was because I didn't want people to go their whole life not having somebody, or not knowing where to do or where to start, or, like knowing that they're not alone. For so long, I thought I was the only one that thought like that. I was the only one that had that process. So, yeah, I suppose that's where I got into mindset coaching, helping people to understand who they are, why they are the way they are, and that it's okay.
Yeah.
They're enough. That's just what that's my passion. That's what I want to help people with the most.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with it all. And like you said, the reason why we do what we do is because we've either experienced something, some hurt,
Yeah.
or some realization that we too want to help other people with.
Yeah.
And, you know, I couldn't imagine going through that myself. But that kind of brings out other traits in you, I suppose, like courage, just so much like determination and like willpower to get to where you want to go
Yeah.
as well. So much learning in there. So you should be so proud. Like I feel like, we think back on the times that were tough.
Yeah.
Um, and, once we get out of that kind of victim mindset, we look back and go, okay, I'm so grateful that happened because I learned so much from that event. Or,
100%.
and even, yeah, me too. I've had those moments too where I'm just like, so grateful that happened. Now I know why that happened.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm a
so
huge believer when it comes to, and like I have this debate with quite a few people, because a lot of, I don't know whether I'm allowed to swear. Can I swear?
oh yeah, that's fine.
Cool. I'm like, so a lot of shit happens. So many of us go through so many shitty experiences that, we, I don't even know where I was going then. I've just had a total mind blank. But we go through so many shitty experiences that we no, I've lost it. It's gone.
Is it like we go through so many shitty experiences that we just kinda always think that there's always shit happening to us?
That's where I was
Kind of?
going. Yes. So we
Yeah?
were talking about why it happens. So we go through so many shitty experiences, and I'm like a huge believer that everything happens for us, not against us. Like everything happens for a reason. And, and there is, don't get me, there are so many shitty experiences and so many that I used to look back and I used to think, why me? Like,
Mm.
why did that have to happen to me? Like, there's no good reason for it. There's no explanation for it. Now, as an adult helping other people, I realize, although yes, it was a shitty circumstance, I wouldn't go back and change it because without going through that, I can't help people that may have gone through something similar. I can't offer, some sort of expertise or help or even just listen and understand.
Yeah.
You'll never truly understand what somebody else has gone through, but you can have a fair inkling of an idea and just hold space for them. And I think until you've truly gone through something, something similar to what somebody's expressing with you, you can't hold that same space for them. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh, no, I totally get it.
so,
Yep.
I think when you can look back at what you've been through, whether it's big, whether it's small, like you could have got stuck in traffic for 20 minutes in the morning and, it might not be anything major, but to you it's like, like why?
Yeah.
But when you look back at it, it all makes sense. Like, maybe if you were 2 minutes earlier, you might have been in a car accident or something might have
100%.
happened, like something, it's yeah.
Oh, no, I totally get it. Sometimes when, like, things aren't moving forward for me, I'm like, "Okay, something's gonna happen around here." And
Mhm.
it does. Like,
Yeah.
whether it's with the kids, whether it's with Andrew, something always happens. It's because I'm meant to switch hats.
Yeah.
I'm meant to be mum, or I'm meant to be wife, or daughter, or friend, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just surrendering to that, like, it takes practice. Like, I'm no pro. So I still get frustrated when things are moving forward. But looking back, I'm like, okay, well, that's the reason why that didn't happen. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's definitely interesting, and when you can swap that mindset to actually be more aware or pay more attention or to see what else may have been arising is definitely a huge key.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so for people that aren't at that point yet, because
Yeah.
for me, I know it took me quite a long time to get to that point. Um, what are what are the first steps that you would take when it comes to becoming more aware of your past?
Yeah. So for me in particular, I think I just needed to, so I'll speak from experience as opposed to like everybody else because we're all so different. But for me
Yep.
personally, I just needed to take that time to just sit with myself. And like that probably sounds so silly to some people, but to just be by myself and sit, like be quiet, just become more aware of like what my body feels, becoming more in tune with myself and my thoughts. Like, am I going through that fight or flight mode? Like, how that your heart starts racing or, you know, figuring out what it is that you're actually feeling, what it is that's going through your head at a certain time. Like when you do become aware of something, we really do need to sit with ourselves, I think personally, to understand who we are. I think that just helps bring out how you respond to something. Simply reminding yourself, that you're safe and like check in with those
Yeah.
emotions. Like, what is it? Why is it coming up? Why is it here? Like it's there for a reason. You don't just go into fight or flight mode for no reason. There's always something behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I feel like that would be the first place if you become aware of something is to just check in with yourself first before
Yeah.
anything else.
And it could be something that's triggering you too. Like, I find sometimes, like, even like, it could be something so small, but the reason why I'm mad is not the reason why I'm actually mad. Like,
Yeah,
for example, with the kids,
yeah,
sometimes they'll just keep annoying you, annoying you, annoying you, and then you just let loose. You're just like, "What do you want?" But why did you yell at them in the first place? What's really going on?
yeah, 100%. I was gonna actually use a similar example of like when, you're busy doing something and somebody's nagging at you or like, your child's asked you 10 times already if they can have a snack and you're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, in a minute, in a minute, in a minute, in a minute." And then, like 10 times later, it's like, "What? Why? Get it yourself."
Yeah.
And then you sort of backtrack and you go like, I'm not even cranky that you asked for food. That's not even the problem. The problem is that, XYZ that happened maybe like yesterday or 2 days ago or, 5 days
100%.
ago that's just been like, oh, it's been eating at you without even you realizing that it's been eating at
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and it's those moments I think that helps me become more aware because I stop and I'm like, "Okay, I'm sorry, Leo. I wasn't mad at you. Mummy's mad at something else." And then I have to think back and be like, "Okay, why did he trigger me? Like, what happened?"
Yeah, yeah.
Um
I think that's great too that I know it's totally off topic, but I think that's great too that you even explain that to him because
Oh,
it
yeah.
it will then show him that nobody's perfect.
Mhm.
We all have something, and it will show him that it's okay. Like if he was to react or respond, if he can become aware that he's done that by, one, being becoming aware first, but then also to then, apologize. I'm sorry, that I threw my toy, or I'm sorry that I threw the food that you gave me. I'm not upset with you. It's just that, whatever it may have been, it just allows him to then go through the same processes that you're doing. So
Oh,
I love
100%. But
that.
you know what got me doing that actually was because he always like, sometimes he would say to me, "Oh, mummy, when" what did he say? "Oh, mummy, when I'm" oh, he didn't say mummy when I'm a good boy. He said something like, "Mummy, when I'm happy, you love me," or something like that.
Oh,
And I go, "Okay, now we need to switch this," because he thinks that only when he's happy or when he's a good boy that I actually love him,
yeah,
right? Or he said something like, "Mummy, when I'm a good boy, you're happy." Something
yeah,
like that. And I literally, as soon as he said it to me a couple of times, but I didn't really register what he said. Like,
yeah,
you know how sometimes like they're talking and you're just like, "Okay, Leo," but I was just like, "Okay, this is like big stuff here right
yeah,
now." So
yeah,
I said to him, "Oh no, honey, mummy loves you all the time and I'm happy with you all the time. So now when I get mad, I literally stop and I'm like, Leo, I'm sorry mummy got so mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Mummy's mad at something else and I'm trying to figure it out."
yeah,
And now too, when he's mad, I'm like, "Okay, I know you, I understand you're mad. Let's try and figure out why you're mad."
yeah, yeah.
Because that just got me. Like, these kids, they're our biggest teachers. I don't know about
They
you.
really are. I was gonna say, actually, it reminds me of a time, like, have you seen that picture? It goes around all the time, and it's like a child playing with toys, and then, like, the parent is sort of, not blurred out, but they're kind of almost invisible with their phone in their hand, and it's like, you're there, but you're not there. I remember when my eldest 2 were a lot younger, we were drawing, and, Nate said to me he's my middle child, he was my youngest at the time, and he's like, "Mummy, I'm gonna draw you," and he draws a picture of a person with a phone,
Oh
and
my
I was
goodness.
like, "Oh, that hurt," like, but then I was like, "But that's obviously something that you're seeing a lot, and you think that that's normal," and I became very aware in that moment
Mm,
that although I didn't feel like I was on it all the time, for him being so small, that was something that he had like, that's just what he thought, "Mum's always on her phone. Mum's always on her phone," and I was like, "Oh
wow.
my goodness, goodbye." Like, no, that's not
Yeah.
normal.
No. No,
No.
especially when oh, wow, that would have got me too, I
Oh,
think.
it pulled on my heartstrings. I was like, "Is
I
is
I
that is that what I look like all the time?"
but I think so too, like, for me, it's because then I don't want them growing up thinking that it's okay to always be on your phone.
No.
Like, I want them to be outside.
Yeah.
I want them to be kids,
Mhm.
right? Not, "Oh, I just have to be on the phone because" but we can go on to phones and distractions, like, that's another topic,
That is
right?
a completely other topic.
But I don't want them like, I actually want them to be kids.
Yeah,
So,
I'm
yeah,
exactly the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, I think not going through this whole journey, like, I would have thought, "Oh, it's okay for them to be on their phones," or "It's okay, whatever he said to me. Oh, that's so cute," or
Mm.
whatever. But I think because we just we pick up on it, like, we pick up on that stuff that
That
they're
stuff.
saying.
Yeah, and kind of bring it back to topic as well, I used to think like, "Why am I on my phone? Like,
Mm,
what is it that brings me to, why am I scrolling?" And because
mhm.
let's be real, that's what I would do. I would just sit and I would scroll, and at that point, Instagram wasn't even here, so it was just Facebook. onion scroll. And, like, I find Facebook at that time was so much worse because you'd see not just like a picture, but you'd get this whole caption below. So then you'd get
Yeah.
stuck reading all about somebody's life, and then before you know it, like 3 hours deep, and you're like, you know somebody that you've never met before, and you're like, "Where the hell has the time gone?" But then, like, why? Why are you sitting there scrolling? Like, what is it that is so much more important in this screen? Like, what are you hiding from? What are you running from
Mhm.
that is
Oh.
better to be deep in your phone than paying attention to what's happening in real life? Like, yeah,
Oh, well, at the moment, time of recording, I've taken like 2 weeks off Instagram, and
yeah,
I go to reach my phone when I'm bored. And I'm
yeah,
like, "Okay, why am I doing this for?"
yeah,
But you know what? As the days are going by, I actually don't even think about it anymore. Like, I
yeah.
don't even pick up my phone's in another room.
And
And yeah,
it goes from being like something you pick up when you're bored to becoming so habitual. I don't even know if that's the word,
habitual,
but it
yep,
becomes,
that's it,
yeah,
yep.
habitual. I was like, I don't know if that's the right word, but it becomes so habitual that you don't even realize that you've picked that up and you're going through it. And that has been me. And
Mhm.
I've actually recently set timers on my Instagram and my Facebook, just enough
Awesome.
for me to get my work done that I need to get done,
Yep.
and maybe like 10 or 15 minutes to just, have a social flick,
Yeah, of
because I do actually
course.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, is you can get so stuck in it, you stop living your own life because you're living everybody else's.
100%. But even though too, like, becoming aware of that too, like, it comes back to even, like, emotional eating,
Yeah,
sometimes, especially now in the space that we're in, like, sometimes not reaching for my phone, I'll go reach for the pantry and I'm like, "Okay, now we've got to stop,"
yeah.
because, like, what is it that's coming up? So, oh, there's so many things, so many distractions and,
And I also think if you can become aware of what your distractions are, it can also help you become more aware of what your triggers are and what exactly it is that is causing that, if that makes sense. Like, it helps you dig that little bit deeper.
yeah,
Because
100%.
again, I'm going back to another meme, but I think there's a meme that goes around and it says like spend time doing the things that make you forget to check your phone.
Mm,
And it's
yeah.
because you're doing things that actually light you up. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
come
love
back to
it.
that. Do more of that.
Do more of that. Yes. Yes. Well, let's get back to topic,
Yes.
but I think, well, it's all been relative,
Yeah.
but we're kind of specifically talking about your past. So,
Yeah.
and you know what? I actually think that what we spoke about comes back to this next question that I'm gonna ask, but, like, what are some of the first signs that you even need to break free from your past
Yeah.
in the first place?
So I think, we touched base on this just before. And for me in particular, one of my first signs was being stuck in that victim mode,
Mm,
like, feeling sorry for myself, poor me. But also understanding that sometimes you don't even realize you're in victim mode. Like I said earlier, like when you're stuck
mhm.
in traffic or you're running late and someone pulls out in front of you, and all of a sudden you think like, what have I done to deserve that? Like, what have I done to deserve you pulling out in front of me? What have I done to deserve being late, or, whatever it may be? And that's victim mode. Like, you're not stopping to become aware of, maybe they're in a hurry, maybe they're running late, maybe, whatever else. And there's also times, that you can be, like you may be listening to, you may be talking to somebody and they're not listening, and you're so stuck up
Mm,
in your own head that you think like, why aren't you listening to me? Don't you like me? Are you like,
yeah.
are they judging me? Like, what is it? They're all kind of signs that lead back to the same, and that's being in victim mode. And I don't know whether I said in the beginning or not now, but like when I was younger, I always felt like I was doing something wrong.
Mm,
Like after standing up to my mom and saying, like, I actually screamed like, I hate you and I never want to see you again. And some people were proud of me because I stood up for myself. I did, all the right things. And I think I recently touched on this in my social media actually, because then I remember the next time that I stood up for myself, and it was like the worst thing in the world. Like, nobody could understand why I had done what I'd done. And it was horrible. So growing up, like, I just thought that I was always doing something wrong. Like, if
mm.
somebody was angry, it was my fault.
Yeah.
Or, like, yeah, anytime something was going wrong, it was all because of me, and I was, stuck in that victim mode,
Yeah.
and I started to think that everything that was happening to me, I deserved, so
Wow.
I think that was a light bulb moment, like realizing I don't deserve this, but, like, why is it happening? And again, like, it was just that light bulb, like, you're stuck in victim mode. It's not happening to you, like,
Yeah.
actually open your eyes, get out of your own head,
Yeah.
and look at all of the other factors, and that can sound quite abrupt and quite rude, and so many people will be like, "But how," like,
Yeah.
"You know how hard it is to do that?" I know
Oh,
how hard
yeah.
it is
It's so hard.
to do that, but when I realized that I was stuck in this mode of or this mentality that everybody hated me or that I was never going to do anything, I was never going to be of anything, I was never going to, you know, when I was younger, I used to want to climb that, like that ladder. And like, I always thought to myself, like, you're never going to make that. Like, who are you to think you can even do that?
Mm.
Again, victim mode and putting it in
Yeah.
against myself. But once I moved past that and realized that there was things in my past I needed to make peace with, like there were people I needed to forgive, there was a myself that I needed to forgive,
Yeah.
was definitely one of the first signs that I needed, to break free. Um, Another one is, we touched on it before when we snap at children, is that we react instead of respond.
Mm. Yeah.
And when you find yourself reacting all the time, it's time to stop and question why. Like, what is it? Why is that triggering you?
Mhm.
Um, like, just take a little bit of time to acknowledge what has happened and then respond accordingly. And I feel like when we do struggle to see the bigger picture and accept even other people's opinions,
Mhm.
we need to find out why. Like, we need to just go back to ourselves,
Yeah.
resort back to ourselves, and just a few deep breaths or something to just go like, why can't you accept somebody else's opinion? Why are you snapping instead of like, like actually listening? Are you listening to what people are saying to listen to them, or are you listening just so that you're waiting for a break to keep talking?
Yeah. Wow. Huge.
Like, I feel like I could just keep talking, but I'm like,
Oh, yeah, let's keep this to time because I feel like we could talk for hours about this because it's just so interesting and, I'm still learning. Like, there
mm,
is still like, even though we're aware, there are still little things that come up that,
yeah,
that we don't respond to, that we do react to.
yeah. It's a
Um,
journey. It's
oh,
definitely a
yeah,
journey.
100%.
Like,
So oh, go on.
oh, I was gonna say, even for myself, like, before we started recording and I was telling you about our pool leak and then the washing machine, and I was like, "Why?"
Yeah,
And
that's
then
yeah, you did. Yeah.
just taking the time to just go, "You know what? I'm grateful. I'm grateful that we even have the time to dig a hole around our pool to find a leak. I'm grateful that we could go and get a replacement washing machine straight away." Like, I'm grateful for those things. Why? I don't know yet. I'm sure it'll show itself
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
But like, even those moments when I first went like, "Why?" And then going, "You know what? It's okay."
But that's it too, and I was actually gonna touch on that too. Like, I know it's still around topic, but, that whole if you're having that kind of not negative mentality,
Mm,
but like you're just attracting it more to you.
yeah.
So if you're always saying, "Why me?" Like, "Why did I get this fine? I'm so mad." I remember, really quick story, I got a speeding fine.
Yeah.
And then I was so mad at Andrew, right? For me getting this fine. Then he got a fine. Then I got another one. So between the both of us, we had over $1,000 worth of fines that we had to pay. But that was because I was just so mad and just attracting that energy to me
Yeah.
instead of saying, okay, I really should slow down. Thank you for sending me this. I need to slow down.
Yeah.
Right. But instead, I was like, adding to the fire, like just
Yeah.
adding to it, and then that just brought more to me.
It does, and it's not that like, it is bringing more to you, but it's also that mindset too. Like, if you can swap that from being like, "What is it? Why did I get this? Like, why is it happening?" And just remembering that, that I say it all the time, there's a reason for everything.
Yeah,
And so instead of being, like focusing on the negative, like I could have just been like, the swimming pool stuffed and then the washing machine stuffed and something else probably could have been stuffed. But just going, you know what? It's okay. The
it's
washing can
okay.
pile up for a day. It's okay.
Mhm.
The swimming pool at the moment is not being used, so that's great.
Yeah, but just being grateful, I
And just
suppose.
and yeah, and swapping that focus to instead of or only noticing the negative things, swapping the focus to, like, gratefulness, gratitude, and I feel like that's a really good swap, like,
Yeah.
start
Or
paying
s
more attention
Yeah,
to what you can become grateful for, and you'll start to notice more things, like, more positive things, whereas if you're just noticing all the negative things, and when we are stuck in victim mode, that's all we see. We only see the negative things. So of course, like I said with the traffic incident, like if somebody pulls out in front of you, you're just gonna keep paying attention to that. Then the next person might be driving 5 Ks under the speed limit.
yeah,
And that's what you're gonna be noticing. You're not gonna be like, it would be so easy for me to just pull into the next lane and go around them. No, like
yeah,
why are you driving 5 Ks under the speed limit?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I know I'm so excited for this one because 'cause I'd love to know we spoke about gratitude,
Yeah.
but what are some of the tools or techniques that someone can implement or work on if, maybe there is something that's bothering them at the moment or they do find that they are in that victim mindset?
Yeah, I suppose I touched base on it before, just, sitting with yourself and becoming
Mhm.
aware of like, asking yourself the questions like, what am I feeling? Blah, blah, blah. We touched base on that. I think you've also had some other people on the podcast who have also expressed, like Pat with mindfulness and Tiff with feeling your emotions. I feel like that's a bit, they're big. They're very, very big. And they should probably be the first things that you do. Um, for myself personally, I love journaling.
Mm.
And whether that's a journal prompt, like if you can find them pretty much anywhere these days, but
Yeah.
whether it's a journal prompt or whether it's you just literally, and this one is one of my favorites to go to, opening up a book or a diary on a blank page, just writing, just no judgment, completely just writing whatever comes out. And don't judge yourself with what comes out. Don't judge yourself if you've got lots of things to say, and don't judge yourself if you've only got like 2 sentences to write or 1 word to write.
Mhm.
Just get it out of you and out of your head. I think that's a huge one. Um, some other techniques. I would definitely say, you know, I love meditation, but not like I remember when I first started meditation or when I first was introduced to meditation and I was like, how am I supposed to sit here with my legs crossed and my hands held together, fingers touching and close my eyes and hum? No.
No.
That's amazing. And I think you definitely work yourself to that point in meditation. But for me, it was simply blocking out the noise.
Mhm.
So, and I feel like in relation to everything that's going on in the world right now, switch off.
Mhm.
Switch off. Give
Yep.
yourself, even if you just set a timer for like an hour that you don't go on social media, that you don't listen to the news or the radio, and you just switch off and do something else. Like for me, I used to find it hard to stop, I was going to say the voices in my head. That's the noise.
The noise, yep.
Stop the noise and the thoughts and the processes. So for me, I would go for a walk by the beach or I would listen to the ocean because that was like I would just go and as soon as I heard the ocean, like everything else stopped, like nothing else mattered.
Yeah.
So definitely find your quiet space, like your area where you just get even if it's coloring, like if you can sit down and color and nothing else matters, like while you're coloring, do that. Like find
Yeah.
what it is that brings you either joy or quietness. Like just
Yeah.
block out everything else. I think we can get so distracted by everything else that, we don't have we're just, I don't know, overwhelmed,
Overstimulated?
overstimulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just shutting off.
We're just not coming back to our bodies, our minds, what's really going on.
Yeah.
Oh, this has been such a great chat. I feel like we could go on and on and on. But is there anything else that you wanted to add or share that we may have
Um,
missed out on?
maybe even when it comes to, overstimulation and mindset. I think, like, I was having a discussion with a really close friend of mine recently, and she said, like, she's just so fatigued and she's so drained all the time, and she couldn't figure out why. And overstimulation just instantly came to my head. Like, everywhere that we look, there is
Mhm.
color, there is writing, there is something happening that our brains are just wired constantly. They're constantly seeing, it's constantly doing that. Even just going for a drive,
Mm.
your brain is so alert and so aware of everything that sometimes you do just need to just find somewhere and don't move. Just be,
Yeah.
because we're so stimulated. So even if you take that into consideration, a 5-minute drive down the street when you're seeing billboards, and even though you're not physically going, "Oh, there's a billboard. Oh, there's a new shop," or, "Oh, there's a dog on the side of the road," your brain's taking it in. And when you're in when you're in a bad mindset, when you've got things that you're struggling with as well, so your brain's thinking about those, taking in all of these other things, and it's just this, your body's tired,
Mhm.
and it's okay to rest. It's okay not to be okay. It's also
Yeah.
okay not to want to deal with your past.
That's true too, and I think it kind of comes up when it needs to. Like, I always had things that used to come
Absolutely.
up, but I wasn't ready, but I'm ready now, so I'm ready
Yeah,
to go, but back then I wasn't,
yeah,
and just being compassionate with yourself, um, I think as well too. But this has been such a great chat. It's
it's
just
been great.
been such I love this topic. I think because it's something that I'm still delving into, learning
Yeah,
about, and I think like it took me 30 years to get to the point of being comfortable to actually work on my mindset.
yeah,
And you know what? It hasn't been easy. And sometimes, like I do say to Tiff, like we say to each other, like, why did we even start? Like
yeah.
it just creates more problem, not more problems, but like
It
we
can
think
feel like that
it
though.
feels like that, right?
Yeah,
But it's not. It's just that we're growing and the stuff just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, but we grow bigger and bigger and bigger too,
yeah.
if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I can relate because, like, my mum passed 2.5 years ago, and I was there with her, for the last 48 hours, a little bit more than 48 hours. Like, the whole, all of us siblings were there. And witnessing what I witnessed, I decided to, I had my moment, but I also had my 4-month-old with me, so I didn't have a chance to actually process and grieve. It was like, "Nope,
yeah,
you've had your 10 minutes. You've got a child to look after, you have to be strong." So
yeah,
that's the mindset that I had throughout that time, and I've been working on myself for a long time before this. So it just goes to show that sometimes you still shut it off. Sometimes you still suppress it. And I suppressed it for such a long time. And it wasn't until I realized I started resenting all of these other people
mm,
that were moving forward, and I was still stuck and I was resenting them, that I went, holy shit, it's not you, it's me.
mm,
Like, okay, need to work through this. So I started working through the process of grieving mum and working through the process of what I'd seen and, what I'd witnessed. And I was okay. And then my auntie just recently passed. And talking to my family, and they would, I don't want to go into depth just in case I trigger somebody else. But if, somebody is triggered, definitely take a minute and look inwards. But, talking to all my family and them explaining how they're feeling, I was just like, holy shit, I haven't finished dealing with
yeah,
what I need to deal with.
yeah,
And I definitely, listened and I held space for them. I knew what they were going through. I knew how they were feeling, but it's just another sign that you only really deal with what you're ready to deal with.
yeah,
And so I wasn't ready to deal with the process of exactly how I felt about watching my mum slowly pass until recently. And, working through that, I can talk about that now. Like, when it was first happening, I was shut off and I was like, no,
yeah,
can't do it. So yeah, I think, like you said, touching base back to that you only really work on what you're ready to work on.
yeah,
Mm.
100%. Oh, well, I love to end the show with a question. So
Absolutely.
Where would you recommend someone does start if, they wanted to implement, whether it is a mindset practice or just
Yeah.
becoming that little bit aware? Where do you think they should start?
Ooh, I feel like I was gonna say journaling, but I also feel like sometimes that can be very confronting too. So for somebody who has no idea and, has is starting to just pay attention to your triggers, I think would be the very first start is just become aware, I guess. And
Mm.
understand that you're okay, whether that mean that you reach out to a friend or a family member, or whether you don't, if you don't want to, that's okay too. Um, even no, I'm definitely still going to say journaling, even if it means that you do
Yeah.
you do,
I did journaling first. I think journaling was the first
yeah.
thing that I did,
And I
because
think
it's just writing down what's in there.
what's in your head, yeah. And I think journal prompts are a great place to start because sometimes when you think journaling, you get so overwhelmed and you're like, okay, so what? Or I'm here, I've
Mm.
got my pen, I've
Yeah.
got my paper. What do I do now? So I think having journal prompts helps you to reflect, um, and accept yourself in that situation. I think acceptance is huge. We can it's but that's a whole other topic. I'm not even gonna dive into that. But,
Yeah.
I would start with becoming aware of, what you're feeling, what your body's feeling, what your mind's telling you, what continues happening for you. I think becoming aware of what keeps showing up for you is a good sign of you need to do
Mhm.
something, and journal.
Yeah.
Definitely journal and shut off.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Jess.
You're
Guys, you
most
need to check
welcome.
out Jess's Instagram page because you share a lot of value on there.
Thank you.
I always pick like even your posts, they're just so inspiring. And you also have a 5-day course.
Yes.
Yes, talk about
Great place
that.
to start. No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is
Well, it
really
would be, yes, absolutely.
for this
So I
topic.
do have, it is actually so in relation to this podcast, breaking free from your past. So it's 5 days of journal prompts and meditations just to help you find clarity and to be able to move forward. So it equips
Yeah.
you with the tools and resources that you need and that you can use to go through it. And you don't have to go through it alone. When you do sign up, you do get access to me as well. So if something comes up and you don't know, you know, how to process that or how to move through that, definitely got access to me. So you don't have to
That's
do it
awesome.
alone. Um, and it's not, when I say it's breaking free from your past or making peace with your past, it's not about, you don't have to have gone through a huge life, traumatic event. It could just be something that you just want to, maybe even you want to delve into. Is there something bothering you? Definitely, it's definitely suitable for anybody.
Yeah. Well, go check it out, guys, if this podcast has really inspired you. But I really wanted to acknowledge you, Jess, for sharing your journey on here and everything that you've been through yourself, because I feel like if you didn't go through any of that stuff, you wouldn't be here sharing your wisdom and your learnings, everything, your lessons with my audience here. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for
you are so
coming on
welcome.
and sharing. So please share with everyone where they can find you.
Okay, so I do have a website, which is there. It's just www.jesslincoln.com. Otherwise, my Instagram is very in depth. There's lots on there. You can have a
Lots, lots,
stalk,
lots. Yes, have a stalk.
whatever you
Do it.
please. And that is obviously just the Instagram link / Jess Lincoln, LINCOLN. And then Facebook is the same. So
Yeah.
quite easy to go ahead and find me.
Well, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
all be in the show notes anyway. So I'll have all of your links. But thank you so much, Jess. This has been just such a great chat. I feel like we could keep chatting.
I could definitely talk. But thank you so much for having me. And yeah, thanks for listening.